Okay, so we are going to be taking notes on what your research needs to look like in the STEM Fair project. Okay? The first thing we're going to start with, how do you know what you are looking up? Do you just grab a computer and go on Google and just search up any old thing?
No.
Do you think that that's going to be beneficial to your project?
Nope. No.
What's the purpose of research in the scientific investigation process? Lily? Okay, gives you information about your topic. Haley?
To understand it more.
To understand your topic more. Sienna?
Makes you not knowledgeless in what you're doing, so you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it helps you become an expert on the topic that you are testing, because you don't want to go in not understanding fully what you're testing. So the first thing that we need to figure out before we start researching is we need to know, what are we wondering about the project? What questions do you have about your project? What things are you curious about? So for the STEM Fair project, you need to create 3 questions relating to your topic. Three questions relating to your topic. So for example, if I was testing how different soils affect how tall the plant grows, I might think about, what different types of soils are there? How tall does my plant normally grow? What's the average height of this plant? I might wonder about, how much sunlight and water does the plant need? Were any of those questions that I just created my actual testable question?
Yeah.
No.
Remember, my testable question was, how does the different types of soil affect how tall the plant grows?
Yes.
Were any of those 3 things I just said my testable question?
No.
No, they were not. These 3 questions are not your testable question. Because remember, is your testable question something you can find an answer for on Google?
No.
Yeah. No.
Think about it.
Wait, no.
That's one of the main characteristics of a testable question, is that we can't find the answer on Google. We have to test it to figure it out. So typing your testable question into Google is not going to help you. We're going to think about 3 general questions that you have about your project. Once you have those 3 questions in your journal, you're going to put the title of the questions on a different page. So let's say that my 3 questions for my project were, what different types of soils were there? How tall does my plant normally grow? And how much air, sunlight, and water does my plant need? In my journal, I'm going to use Edwards as an example. In my journal, I'm going to write that question on the top of 3 different pages. And remember, as you're keeping your table of contents, you're going to make sure you're numbering the pages so that we know each of the pages where they are. After I've thought of my 3 testable questions and I've written them in my journal, the next thing I need to do is grab a computer or a book resource, and I need to try to find the answer to my question. So your research is actually your answer to the question. I'm not just writing random mumbo jumbo down on the paper and calling it research. I'm figuring out a question that I have, and then I'm actually answering the question. Chris, you need to be writing this down in your notebook. Page 2. So if we're thinking about our journals, if we have the question written at the top, we'll skip a line, we'll answer the question. Do you think the research needs to be in complete sentences?
Yes.
I hear some yeses and I hear some nos.
Yes, it does.
Shh. Who is the research for?
Us. You.
Okay, and so when I tell you, please stop calling out if you're going to be doing that. When I tell you that you're taking notes, do I tell you you need to write in complete sentences?
No.
No. If the notes are for you, you need to be able to read and understand them. So you don't have to, if you find something on the internet, copy it down word for word. It doesn't need to be in complete sentences. It's your notes. So write them however you'd like. I do want the notes to be at least 3 to 5 sentences though. You cannot just write one sentence and expect that to be valid research. It needs to be at least 3 to 5 sentences. Or if you'd like, you could write bullet points. But you need to have a good amount of information. Okay, next, what's an important thing to write down if I'm taking my information from another source? Darnell? You need to cite your source or tell me where you got your research from. Cite your source. So that means that if you went on the internet and you found a really great website, you're writing down the name of that website and possibly the name of the article that you found it from. So for example, if I found my research for my plant project on a site called www.fertilizer.com, I would make sure that I wrote down www.fertilizer.com. Okay? Now, when you look at a web page, how do you figure out what website you're on? Lily? If you look at the top of the computer screen, you'll see the address bar, okay? Do you need to write out the super duper duper long link that has like //HTTP.569. / Do you need to write all that stuff down? No, you're just looking at the main part of the website, www.blablabla.com. That's all you need to write down. Yes, Lindsay.
Normally it will have the main part in bolded so that you can see that.
Very good. Yes. Is Google a source?
No.
Okay, thank you. Google is not a source. Google is a way for you to find information. It's a search engine. Very good, Ben. So Google will lead you to websites, but Google is not where you're finding your information. And we talked about this when you did your aquifer project. Many of you said, well, when I type it into Google, it brings up that text box and it gives me all my information right there on the Google page. What did I say to do if that was happening to you? Mackenzie, do you remember?
There should be a website underneath it that's giving you that information.
Exactly.
That's the website that came from.
Google is finding that information for you from a website and showing it to you in a quick snapshot. If you look right underneath that paragraph of information, there should be a link that brings you to the actual website. Google does not give you any information, it only gives you websites. So Google should not be one of your sources. So remember, let's recap. On your notes page, you should have your question at the top, then the answer to the question in 3 to 5 sentences, and then right underneath it, you should have the link to your website. Okay, how many pieces of information or research do you need to have?
3 to 5 sentences.
3 to 5 sentences for one source, but how many pieces of research do you need to have? Jordan?
3.
3, because remember you thought about 3 questions. So that means you need to have 3 pages of research with 3 to 5 sentences on each page. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is that you need to have at least one source as a book. So out of the 3 pieces of research, one of them needs to come from a book. I will send people to the media center tomorrow, but remember, what's another way to find a book source other than the media center? Because a lot of times we don't have a lot of different resources in the media center. Eder?
No, my Pasco Connect.
If you go on My Pasco Connect, remember what was the resource that I showed you? Does anybody remember the name of it? Mackenzie?
Little bits.
Not Little Bits, it's Kids Info Bits. You were close. Kids Info Bits. Remember, if you go on through My Learning, you can click on the Gale Resources, and then you click on K through 12, and then you click on Kids Little Bits, and then you can search for any information that they have on there. They have tons of books, magazines, articles. Now, if you find your information from Kids Info Bits, if you find your information on there, when you're citing your source, are you citing Kids Info Bits?
No.
No, Kids Info Bits is just like Google. It's a way for you to find books. If you find a book on Kids Info Bits, when you cite your source, you need to write the name of the book and the author. Somebody repeat what I just said. Andrew?
If you find the book on there, put the name of the author.
You need to put the name of the book and the author, not just Kids Info Bits. Okay? Are there any questions on what your research needs to include? Dear Simi.
I don't get what you mean by 3 to 5 sentences.
So when you have your question and you're looking up the answer to your question, you need to write some good details, 3 to 5 sentences. You're not just giving me a 1-sentence answer to the question. So that means you're looking through the research and you're thinking of different things relating to that question. It could be bullet points, it could be complete sentences, whatever you'd like, but you do need to have 3 to 5 pieces of information. Okay? Other questions about your research? No? All right. So